Welcome to the second episode of Legends of Luck and Lore. I am Nathan. This is Toby. Over the next few episodes, we're going to be talking about the three pillars of a good D&D campaign. And the first one we're going to be going over today is good role play.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do we want to hit first? Or I guess, how does good role play happen?
Step one, easy. You got to find the right group. You got to be comfortable with the people you're around. It's either got to be friends that you've known for a while, or you got to make friends with them. Hopefully a little bit of both.
Yeah.
It's always good to make new friends, but I think that's step one, is finding that right group to play with.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of benefits to great role play, but none of it can really happen until you're comfortable with the people around you.
Yeah, and one we were talking about earlier, one way to be comfortable is in order to be comfortable, you have to be uncomfortable first. You got to be that one player that does the silly voice for their character, and you might get laughed at, but as soon as you do that silly voice, someone else is go, well, I want to try a silly voice and see what comes out, and then you can go from there and change speed or tone or whatever, and then find your voice in that character for better role play.
Yeah, it's a snowball effect. Your DM will probably be role-playing no matter what. It's their job in this social contract that we have, that they'll be role-playing. They're the whole world, the NPCs, the villains, the monsters.
The wind.
But once that first player on the other side of the screen starts to role-play pretty heavy and starts to really get into their character and kind of flip that switch, and okay, when we start, I'm not Toby. I'm
Gup.
the 6 foot tall Locathah barbarian. I'm Alathriel, the elf ranger. Whatever it happens to be, whoever that first person that flips that switch, it kind of snowballs into everybody else. It's a way to say, hey, you guys are welcome to do this. I don't want to be the only person that feels weird at the table. And the more you do it and the more they do it, the more natural it feels, to the point that you guys will stop being Toby and Nathan when you're playing.
I think it helps when we're playing. You call us by our, unless it's something above table, like pass me the chips or whatever. It's you call us by our character name, and it's a lot easier to say, "Oh, I'm this person for the next 4 hours." And with finding your voice, if you don't want to find it in front of the people around you because you're still not yet comfortable with them, I figure out my voice usually when I'm driving somewhere, or it's just when you're alone in a room. Start doing silly voices. If someone walks in on you, you might look a little crazy, but maybe you found your voice that time. So it's being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and being not good at the voice at first, but eventually finding it.
Yeah. Well, no one's expecting you at your home game to sit down and be a professional voice actor. You don't need to be Chris Sabat. You don't need to be Matthew Mercer. No one's expecting that from you. So you don't need to worry about having a perfect voice.
Uh-huh.
And you don't need to really change all that much. We had a character in our campaign that their character's voice was their exact same voice, but they talked with a lisp.
That was me, and that was unintentional because I was the first screw up short.
Yeah, you accidentally called it a short sword instead of a short sword.
Yeah, and then it just snowballed from there, and eventually my character talked like this.
Yeah, same voice, you just add a lisp. But whenever it was Athroth, the character's name, irony's not lost on us that there's 2 S's in that name. But whenever it was Astro speaking versus Nathan, nobody at the table had a question. We just knew, and it was real subtle.
Mm-hmm.
We had Covey, another player at our table. That's the character name. The player that played Covey, the only thing that she really did different is sat up. And that was it.
She sat up, and I want to say that she got more stern with her
Little
tone. Bit. She was always angry.
Covey's a barbarian,
yes,
so
but it
checks
makes sense.
But it's just subtle tone changes. You don't have to pitch your voice up or down. It simply starts with, okay, this guy's going to talk with his hands. He's going to talk really fast. He's going to say words that I, Toby, personally wouldn't use. I'm going to whip out an indubitably. See, I don't use it. But it's those subtle changes, and that helps you get into your role play better.
Yeah. That's a good way to, well, there's a better way to get into character, but like, what are some other better ways to help your role play other than just a voice? Because like, that's one aspect of a person is their voice. And so what are some other ways?
Something else that I do is it's kind of just a practice in empathy. Is just, okay, what does this person think? What do they care about? What do they love? What's important to them? I played a character in the past that, get ready for a real creative backstory here. He was an orphan, and I was watching Breaking Bad at the time, and I went, I want to have a family. That was his whole thing, is like, I sell drugs and I want to have a family, and I used to be an orphan. And so to him, it was, okay, different from Toby. He has these different moral judgments on drugs and narcotics and whatever it is. But he's always striving for this goal of like, the people around me are what's going to matter. And it's kind of finding your characters, their why. What's their big goal? The things they care the most about.
Would you say that like there's probably a resource available online, it's questions for building your character, and you answer them in character?
There are dozens of them online.
Probably the best way to get into character. Would we do probably 2 or 3 of those? Not just one, just do a couple. See, oh, this is actually... And then as soon as you start those, you're going to start feeling... Because it's kind of like having imaginary friends. Your D&D characters are basically your imaginary friends, but you're them. And you can create this person in any way you like, and you can be someone else for 4 hours, and you can leave life behind. And that's why I think, like, yes, we've cried at the table, but it was because we were in such good role play.
Yeah. Role play is one of those things that just, it pulls you in and it keeps you there.
Yeah.
It's what matters. In the end, D&D is it's a dice game. It's a game about gambling, but we're not gambling money. We're not gambling anything of value in our real lives. We're gambling stakes. We're gambling people. We're gambling locations, and role play is how you make those connections so those things matter.
Mm-hmm.
I think another thing that's really important is to look at everything in a role play situation. It's really easy when you're playing D&D to walk into a shop and look at an old lady and say, I can kill her in a heartbeat and take everything.
Yeah.
It's not as easy to be fighting a bunch of goblins and think, I wonder what happens if I try to talk to him right now. Or even just, I wonder how it will change the scene if I talk to my party member in character. And those roleplay moments are all around. They're there 24/7 when you're playing D&D.
And you kind of, it might be on the part of the DM to say, maybe, hey, you guys have some downtime. Roleplay with each other. My last DM did that. Every time he went to the bathroom, they went, hey, it'll be a few minutes. Roleplay amongst yourselves. Get connected to each other.
Yeah. That's something a lot of DMs do, is just like, okay, long rest. What are you guys talking about before you turn down? Something I do as a DM is when they come to a new town, everybody inevitably splits up and goes their different ways.
Uh-huh.
And in those pairs, I have them talk about their walk.
And you're like, what are you talking about? Why you walk to this next store?
Yeah. It's like, I will tell you kind of what you're seeing, but you guys tell me in character what you're looking for. What are you guys talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So the DM's there to facilitate that and help push that along. But big tips is just find ways to immerse yourself in your character, whether that be a voice, online questionnaires, whatever it be. And another one is just look for those opportunities, because they're there. I promise you they're there.
Mm-hmm. I'd say it has to be cooperative. Like your DM is going to try, and you can try, but if other people in your party aren't willing to give role playing a shot, that's It's in the name. It's tabletop role play game.
Yeah.
So
then that's a conversation to have above
Yeah.
table. But I think for the most part, once somebody starts, it helps just move everybody along, push everybody in that direction. At least in my experience.
I don't know, with first time players, I feel like the DM is that person because they'll come in with the silly goblin voice and say, "Hey, you know,
Yeah, DM's a little separate from that. First player is a better way to say
first
that.
player, yeah."
Because the DM's going to always try. He or she is going to try to facilitate that role play.
And it's honestly just to keep, well, it's probably easier to keep characters straight in your head if they're all a little bit differently voiced.
Yeah.
You can say this one's deeper, this one goes faster. Who was the barkeeper that was constantly?
V?
Yeah, it was V.
Little kobold barkeeper that spoke really fast and spoke with a lot of not YouTube friendly words.
Yeah. Entertaining though. Reorganize the bar shelf every morning.
Yeah.
It's funny to watch. But.
Yep. But it's those little role play moments.
Yeah.
These guys were staying in his bar for about a week.
It was about a week. I was like, it's about
a little
3 days,
less.
but it's probably, yeah.
I think it came out to 5 or 6 because it was 3 days for a character to recover from death.
Mm-hmm.
And then they stayed in town for a little bit and did some other stuff.
Yeah.
But every morning they'd come down and some of them are like, hey, we take our corner booth and we talk and get breakfast. And they would talk amongst themselves and they would watch a barkeep reorganize his bar.
Yeah. We should go see how he's doing before we leave for the wall. Anyways.
Go do it.
There is...
I'm going to kill him.
You're going to kill him?
Just kidding.
I'll kill him first. No, there's like the logistics of it. So what, I guess what checks or what sort of roles, because you can roleplay something if you're trying to do like an intimidation roll, but what's a good way to,
that's good. I think a lot of times these social checks, as far as skill checks come up, you have a chance to roleplay before or after. Every time you're going to do that. If you plan on making a deception check or an intimidation check, persuasion, performance, whatever it is, nobody's asking you to get up and actually juggle 5 flaming knives for your performance check. The roleplay doesn't need to be you in character doing it. It's a chance for you to describe what that looks like as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those kind of checks, animal handling, deception, persuasion, performance, intimidation,
insight.
Insight's a big one. That's kind of going the other way. Kind of, I want to get a read on the person I'm role-playing with.
A lot of the times, like insight and deception are against each other. Yeah.
Yep. But it's whenever those roles come up, there's a major chance for you to role-play what your character is doing in that moment.
I think... I don't remember any specific moments in our campaign where they went, hey, I'm going to roll this check. It was mainly perception, or it's probably insight when we were talking to an NPC. Like, I want to see if they're telling the truth. And we roll and they'll be like, as far as you know, they're telling the truth.
But a lot of times, based off what you say or what you do, your DM will ask for some of those rolls. A lot of times you won't say, I want to try to lie to this person. A lot of times you're going to say, hey, we're sneaking into the back. Hey, there's a guard there. We're allowed to be back here. We belong to the prince. And it's like, okay, now roll a deception. These are coming up after you've done some role play. But it's just, those are good chances. If you're somebody that has proficiency or expertise in deception or intimidation, this is a chance for you to go looking for those opportunities.
I don't know, would you say, because like wizards, sorcerers, most casters have the good intelligence, and then all of the martial classes have good strength. Would you say that like charisma is probably one of those checks if you want to lie? Is that mainly a dump stat for a lot of people, or like are you I guess it comes back to building a character. Like, I'm going to build this character to lie, or I'm going to build this character to...
I think yes and no. Like, obviously, your charisma casters, your paladin, your warlock, sorcerer, bard, those guys are going to have an easier time deceiving, deception, intimidation. So be it. But I've actually found that none of those guys are the best intimidators. it's the barbarian that has to really focus on strength, dex, and con. They don't have a lot of room to move over into intelligence, wisdom, charisma as much as maybe even a fighter does.
That's like the old stereotype, big, strong, and dumb.
Yeah.
That's kind of where it comes from.
But they make the best intimidators because of the role play situations.
Mm-hmm.
Your DM is going to set those DCs based off what you do, what you narrate, what you say.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, a bard with a flute walking up and being like, we're going to do some terrible things to you, is intimidating.
Not really, no.
As a 7-foot-tall Goliath, even if he has a negative charisma modifier. Walking up and saying, you never saw me here, and setting his hammer on the ground.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times, your DM would throw advantage your way or a lower DC or something like that for that situation.
Sometimes, like, if you role play good enough, the reward for it, if your DM allows it, is inspiration, which is just like a free D20 to reroll either in that session. Depending on your DM, you might have to use it that session, or you can keep it until later. But, for the DM, reward good role play. Because
give out your inspiration. Do it. I know rules as written says they can only have one source of inspiration at a time. Oh, who cares? Let them give it to someone else in the party for you. Yeah. Give out inspiration. What's the worst that's going to happen?
I think all of us had inspiration, and at one point, 4 of us gave this one player to make a roll that they really needed to make, and we went, well, we're all out of inspiration now.
Like, what's one extra roll going to do? Really, DMs, just think about it. Is your big bad going to is it going to change everything if they have 1 point of inspiration? Who cares? Give it out. Let them role play. Let them have fun. Reward those things.
Reward the behavior you want to see, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a couple times as a DM, I'm like, they're in a tough social spot. Mm-hmm. This guy wants to kill them, or they have no social leverage. And based off what the character says and how well they role play, I'm like, you convinced me, the DM. You convinced me as a real life human that knows this is a game and imaginary. I'm on your side here. Don't even roll. Good job. Like,
yeah,
you can get away with not even having to roll if you role play it right. If you're that Goliath barbarian and you know you're going to fail your charisma check, role play it good. Like, just get in there and like, you never saw me, and drop your hammer on his toe. Like, just get into it. You're going to have a way more fulfilling experience. You're going to grow as a person, which is
infinitely
like, that's just
great.
That's an amazing thing. You always want to be growing, and then just your game will be more fun. You'll grow. Your DM will throw you some bones too.
Yeah.
From the forever DM, I'm going to tell you, I don't have a favorite player, but whoever role plays the most halfway through a session, they might be my favorite player the second half.
That's true. I know going back to that, when we first went back to the Dryad, I think I was the most embarrassed, but I was probably the favorite that session because it was far. Just what we were doing at the time that went to my background, and we had some fun. And
you think, like, there's a part of playing D&D where you want to feel like the main character.
Mm-hmm.
We don't always feel like the main characters in our life. You know who talks the most in any piece of fiction? Main character.
Yeah.
Maybe not the most, but
if you're the DM and you don't give each one of your players just a little bit when you first start, you say, like, let's say you were a bard, you start with them playing at a concert or whatever, or you're a barbarian, hey, we met you at an arena and you kick some butt, give them their each little background, and then you can expand on that later. And just, I didn't write a ton of background for my character because I wanted to play it at the table. Now I have a lot of background to go through.
Yeah.
But so just
if you're a DM and you're not helping your characters feel like the main character at some point, not that you're a bad DM. You're not a bad DM. You're doing great. DMing's hard. You're doing great, and it's hard. But that's the goal. is for everybody at the table to feel like the main character at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I think we hit that in the last session.
We did.
I think you guys all got your moment, and that's awesome. And I'll tell you as the DM, it's the coolest thing. You think like, oh, my DM's really going to hate it when I do this cool thing or when I change his whole plans. Your DM is hyped. He only looks like he's not because he has to be the bad guys. But like that's the best part of this. He's on your side.
And if the DM's not prepped, talking to you DMs, if you're not prepped for a situation, you say, hey, like, or if you're good at improvising, you can throw something out, or you can say,
give me 10 minutes.
Yeah, give me 10 minutes. You all either go role play amongst yourselves or go take a snack break or whatever, or say, hey, this is a lot more work than what I had prepared. Can we do this next session?
I have at tables said, I got to pee, but I got to make sure I pee after all of you guys so that I figure out what I'm about to do. Like, that's okay. Take your time. Make sure you get it right. Doesn't need to be perfect. But if you feel like you're not ready and you're really thrown off your laurels, give me 5.
You said at table, hey, I don't have this prepared. I need this next week, not today.
Yeah. I have had them walk in somewhere where there's a fight and they're ready to pick a fight, and me look at them and go, I don't have a map. I don't have any encounter built. Like, we're going to end it 30 minutes early tonight so that I can figure this out. And that's fine. That's totally okay.
I think we hit what we were supposed to hit.
Yeah. Go out there, go role play, go turn into somebody you're not, and learn something about yourself.
Be comfortable being uncomfortable.
That's the best piece of advice anybody could give you. Be comfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Sounds good. See you in the next one.